Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Can you see?
Can I just come quickly across?
This is what it is. Okay.
Sorry.
Akila Jaganmataram
Acharya Charanyam Ananya Charanaha Charanamaham Prapatye Vande Padmakaram Prasannavadanam Saubhagyadam Bhagyadam Hastabhyam Abhyam Maniganeir Nana Vidhair Bhusitam Bhaktabhishtaphalapradaam Harihara Brahmadivisevitam Parshve Pankajachankha Padmanidhiryuktam Sada Shaktivihi Sarasi Janayane Sarojahaste Dhavadataram Sukagandhamalya Shobhe Bhagavati Harivallabhe Prakutim Vikrutim Vidyam Sarvabhuta Hitapradam Shraddham Vibhutim Surabhim Namami Paramatmikam Vacham Padmalayam Padmam Sutim Swaham Swadham Sudham Dhanyam Hiranmayim Lakshmim Nityapustam Vibhagarim
Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan.
This is the most handsome Lord Narayan in the world.
Namami Dharmanilayam Karunam Lokamataram
Really, today everyone class Narayan
Padmaksим Padmasundarim Padmodbhavam Padmamukhim Padmanabhapriyam Ramam Padmamaladharam Devim Padminim Padmagandhinim Punyagandham Suprasannam Prasadabhimukhim Prabham Namami Chandravadanam Chandram Chandrasahodarim Chaturbhujam Chandrarupam Indiram Indusitalam Ahlada Jananim Pushtim Sivam Sivakarim Satim Vimalam Vishwajananim Tushtim Daridryanasinim Priti Pushkarinim Shantam Suklamalyam Param Sriyam Bhaskarim Bilvanilayam Vararohanitesvinim Vasundhara Mudarangam Harinim Hemamalinim Dhanadhanyakarim Siddhim Straina Saumyam Subhapradam Nrupaveshnagatanandam Varalakshmim Vasupradam Subham Hiranyaprakaram Samudratanayam Jayam Namami Mangalam Devim Vishnuvakshasaransitam Vishnupatnim Prasannashrim Narayana Samadritam Daridryadvamsinim Devim Sarvopajravavarinim Navadurgam Mahakalim Brahma Vishnu Shivatmikam Trikala Jnana Sampannam Namami Bhuvaneswarim Lakshmi Ksirasamudra Rajatanayam Srirangdhameswarim Dasi Bhuta Samanta Deva Vanitam Lokaikadipam Muram Sriman Mandakatakṣalabdha Vibhava Brahmendra Gangadharam
Put it off for me.
Mute the audio.
Then, giving some instructions.
May I start?
Yes.
Om Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. Everybody, every devotee, please do Namaskaram and get darshan of Lord Narayana. Lord Narayana going to give the blessings to everyone in the Narayan Dham. This is the first time and first ashram in the all of the Africa countries, especially Narayan Dham. It is belongs to the Lord Sriman Narayana Marga. Today, all the devotees and our community members hard work, also Lord Ramanujan's divine blessings, also divine blessings of the Sri Acharya Shyam Ramanuj Swami Ji. We are going to get good darshan and we are going to see a wonderful Supreme Lord Narayana's divine darshan. Right now we are going to start the inauguration of the Sriman Narayana. Everyone do Namaskaram. Our prayer going to start at this moment. Jai Sriman Narayana.
Jai Sriman Narayan.
Om Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha. Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopasantaye Yasya Duradavakratyaha Parisadhya Parasadam Vignam Nignam Tisatatam Vishwaksenam Tamasraye Tadeva Laknam Sudipnam Tadeva Darabalam Chandrabalam Tadeva Vidyabalam Daivabalam Tadeva Lakshmi Padetengra Yugam Swarami Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Pakartho Dhanuddaraha Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutihi Durvani Tirma Tirmama Smrte Sakala Kalyana Bhajanam Nidrajayate Purushastamajan Nityam Brajami Saranam Hariyo Sarvada Sarvakaryesho Nasti Tesam Mangalam Esam Murtisto Bhagavan Mangalaya Tanohari Labastesam Jayastesam Kutastesam Parapavaha Esam Vindevarasyamo Hridayasto Janardanaha Apadam Bhartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Sri Ramam Bhujo Bhujo Namamyaham Om Sri Lakshmi Narayana Bhyam Namaha Sri Sita Rama Bhyam Namaha Sri Bhumila Sameta Sri Venkateswara Swami Namaha Sri Madananta Karna Vishwaksenadi Bhakta Parivarebhyo Namaha Sarvebhyaha Sri Vaishnavebhyo Mahabhagavadebhyo Namaha Iti Namaskaram Kuriyad. Everybody offer your Namaskaram to the Lord Narayana and also Lord Ramanuja. And touch your nose, everyone, and touch your nose with your right and do the prayer. Please repeat Omkaram 3 times in your mind. Again do Namaskaram. Om Sri Govinda 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 Sri Mahavishnoho Ajnaya Pravartamanasya Adya Brahmanaha Ditiya Parate Sri Sveta Varaha Kalpe Vaivasvata Manmantare Kaliyuge Pradamapade Jambu Dvipe Varadavarse Varadakande Sakapte Veroha Dakshine Dikbhage Srirangasya Uttaradik Pradeshe Sri Krishna Godavar Madhyadeshe Bhagavadajnaya Bhagavad Sannido Asmin Vardhamanena Vyavahari Kasantaramanena Sri Prabhavadi Shricha Samvatsarana Madhye Sri Sarvari Nama Samvatsare Adya Uttarayane Vasantarato Chaitramase Krishna Pakshe Adya Dvadasyam Subhatido Vasaraha Vasarastu Adya Stiravasare Shubhavasare Shubhanakshatre Shubhayoge Shubhakarana Evangana Visheshana Vishishtayam Asyam Subhatito Asya Bhagavato Mahapurusasya Bhagavato Narayanasya Jagatpareha Jagat Rakshanartam Avadirnasya Sri Lakshmi Narayana Swaminaha Kripaya Asmin South Africa Deshe Durban Mahanagare Sri Narayana Dhama Divya Sannido Sri Lakshmi Narayana Murti Divya Udgatana Avishkaranaksham Karma Karishye Krupaya Asya Bhaktasya Cha Gotrodbhavasya Cha. Everybody remind once, please repeat your name and your family members' names, and if anyone getting problems, like anyone, your friends are something getting also for those kind of people. So all your family members' names. Are you listening my voice? Yes. Yeah. Everybody please repeat. Mama.
Mama.
Asmakam. Ayushya. Arogya. Aishwarya. Abhivriddhi. Ityartham. Sri Lakshmi Narayana.
Shri Lakshmi Narayana
Divya
Divya
Murti
Murti
Pratisthapana Aviskara Mahotsavam Karishyami. Yes, right now completed Sankalpam, and our Swamiji will going to offer everything like Abhishekam and Archana, everything. Our Shyam Ramanujan Swamiji will offer to the Lord Lakshmi Narayana from our devotee side and every community members side. Okay? Please do the dhyanam. Shantakaram Bhujagasenam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwakaram Gaganasadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogiridhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavavayaharam Sarvalokaikanadam Meghasyamam Pitakosheyavasam Srivatsarankam Kaustubodhvasitankam Punyopetam Pundarikayadaksham Vishnum Vande Sarvalokaikanadam. Swamiji, please touch the lotus feet of Lord Narayana with your right hand. We are going to invite the Lord Narayana in this statue, in this Murti, with the Maha Mantras. Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat. Om Mahadevye Vidmahe Vishnu Padme Dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayat. Yayami, Dhyanam Samarpayami. Offer little bit water 3 times. Om Sri Lakshmi Narayana Janamaha. Please arrange everything to the Swamiji.
Just hold on. 1 minute. We're getting the water. Gautam Acharyaji, should Acharyaji sprinkle the water onto Lord Narayan?
Only sprinkle only, not right full of abhishekam, just sprinkle only.
Sprinkle.
Yeah. Om Arkyam Samarpayami, Padayoho, Padyam Samarpayami, Achamaniyam Samarpayami, Achamaniyam Samarpayami. Om Apohishtama Yobamaha, Dana Vorte Dadatana, Mahirana Yadakshase, Yoga Sivada Moda Sastasya Baje Dehana, Usadeva Matana, Tasma Arangama Boya Seksaja Jidinvata, Apo Janayata Janaha. Please, Swamiji, offer the milk and curd and fruit juices and honey and all the fruit juices little bit. Try to sprinkling on the Lord Narayana. Devotees, please don't forget this. Don't miss this auspicious moment. Our Swamiji going to offer the auspicious things to the Lord Narayana. We are going to offer the Panchamrita Abhishekam. Panchamrita means milk, curd, sugar, honey, banana and another fruit juices. One by one, our Acharya Swamiji offering to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Everybody please recite the divine name of Lord Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Please recite everyone.
Om Namo Narayana. 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 Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana.
Sri Lakshmi Narayana Namaha.
Yes.
Samarpayami, Balodakasnanam Samarpayami, Ya Palinita, Apala Apushpaya Stapushni, Brahat Prasudastanam Jantarmasa, Sumangali Riyam Vadodimagam Sameta Pasyada, Sauba Agyamasya Ratmaya Dastam Vipretana, Balodakasnanam Samarpayami, Om.
Narayan. Om Namo
Show them some food.
Okay.
Narayana. Om Namo 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 Jai.
He has completed the Abhishekam to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana, and the next step is the Aarti. Aarti means not it's a final Aarti, just a small Aarti. After that, the Lord going to get the Alankaram. Sriyakantaya Kalyanidayettinam. Everybody please do namaskaram. Sriyakantaya Kalyanidayettinam. Sri Venkatanivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Kalyanadbudagatraya Kamitarthaprayine Srimad Venkatanataya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Mangala Sasana Paraihi Madacharya Purogamaihi Sarvaihi Sapurvairacharyihi Satkrutanaya Astu Mangalam. Jai Bolo Sri Lakshmi Narayana Bhagavan ki
Jai.
Jai Sri Bhagavad Ramanujan Swamiji Maharaj ki
Jai.
Sri Acharya Shyam Ramanujan Swamiji ki
Jai.
Jai Bolo Bhakta Vrind ki
Jai.
And next step is Alankaram. Our devotees will decorate the Murti of Lord Narayana. And our next step is Hawan. Narayana Ashtakshari Mahamantra Havan. Om Yopam Pushpam Veda Pushpavan Prajavan Pasuman Bhavati. Figure రాలేదు. ఓం శన్నో మిత్ర సంవరుణః శన్నో భవద్వర్యమా శన్న ఇంద్రో బృహస్పతిః శన్నో విష్ణురుక్రమః నమో బ్రహ్మణే నమస్తే వాయో त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अथ पुरुषो वै नारायणो कामयत प्रजासृजेति नारायणात् प्राणो जायते मनः सर्वेन्द्रियाणि च कं वायुर्ज्योतिरापः पृथिवी विश्वस्य धारिणी नारायणात् ब्रह्मा जायते नारायणात् रुद्रो जायते नारायणादिन्द्रो जायते नारायणात् प्रजापतयः प्रजायन्ते नारायणात् प्रवर्तन्ते नारायणे प्रलीयन्ते एतद्दृग्वेदशिरो योधीते ॐ अथ नित्यो नारायणः ब्रह्मा नारायणः शिवश्च नारायणः शक्रश्च नारायणः कालश्च नारायणः दिशश्च नारायणः विदिशश्च नारायणः ऊर्ध्वश्च नारायणः अधश्च नारायणः अन्तर्बहिश्च नारायणः नारायण वेदगुं सर्वं यद्भूतं यच्छभव्यो निष्कलङ्को निरञ्जनो निर्विकल्पो निराख्यातः शुद्धो देव एको नारायणः न द्वितीयोऽस्ति कश्चित् य एवं वेद एतद्यजुर्वेदशिरो योधीते ओमित्यग्रे व्याहरेत् नम इति पश्चात् नारायणायेत्युपरिष्टात् ओमित्येकाक्षरम् नम इति द्वे अक्षरे नारायणायेति पञ्चाक्षराणि एतद्वै नारायणस्याष्टाक्षरं पदम् यो ह वै नारायणस्याष्टाक्षरं पदमध्येति अनपब्रुवः सर्वमायुरेति विन्दते प्राजापत्यं राजस्पोषङ्गौपत्यं ततो मृतत्वमश्नुत इति ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांतिः जय श्रीमन्नारायण
जय श्रीमन्नारायण.
And next is the Archana. Our Swami ji going to perform offer to the Archana. We are called Ashtottara Shatanama Archana. Ashtottara Shatanama Archana means 108 divine names of the Lord Sriman Narayana. Now I am going to chant the Ashtottara Shatanama names, and Swamiji will offer the flowers to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Everybody do namaskaram. Om Kesavaya Namaha. Please offer Swamiji each one flower to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Om Kesavaya Namaha. Om Narayana Namaha. Om Madhavaya Namaha. Om Govindaya Namaha. Om Vishnave Namaha. Om Madhusodhanaya Namaha. Om Trivikramaya Namaha. Om Vamanaya Namaha. Om Sridharaya Namaha. Om Rishikesaya Namaha. Om Padmanabhaya Namaha. Om Damodaraya Namaha. Om Sankarsanaya Namaha. Om Vasudevaya Namaha. Om Pradyumnaya Namaha. Om Maniruddhaya Namaha. Om Purushottamaya Namaha. Om Adokshadaya Namaha. Om Narasimhaya Namaha. Om Achyutaya Namaha. Om Janardhanaya Namaha. Om Upendraya Namaha. Om Maraye Namaha. Om Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Om Venkatesaya Namaha. Om Sesatri Nilayaya Namaha. Om Rishadurga Charaya Namaha. Om Vishnave Namaha. Om Saranjana Girisaya Namaha. Om Saranjana Girisaya Namaha. Om Prashadri Padaye Namaha. Om Menupatra Girisaya Namaha. Om Saraswami Tade Jushe Namaha. Om Kumara Kalpasevjaya Namaha. Om Vajradrupusaya Namaha. Om Samarchala Sutanyasta Sainapatya Varaya Namaha. Om Ramaya Namaha. Om Padmanabhaya Namaha. Om Sadavayustutaya Namaha. Om Tyakta Vaikuntalokaya Namaha. Om Girikunja Viharine Namaha. Om Marichandana Gotrendra Swamine Namaha. Shankarajanya Netrabja Vishayaya Namaha. Om Vasoparicharatratre Namaha. Om Krishnaya Namaha. Om Abdikanya Parisvakta Vaksase Namaha. Om Venkataya Namaha. Sanakadi Mahayogi Pujitaya Namaha. Devachitramukhananta Daitya Sangha Pranasine Namaha. Shvetadvipavasanmukta Pujitangrayugaya Namaha. Om Sesaparvataropatva Prakasana Paraya Namaha. Om Sanastapita Darkshaya Namaha. Om Darkshachala Nivasine Namaha. Om Maya Kuda Vimanaya Namaha. Om Garudaskanda Vasine Namaha. Om Sri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Sri Devji Namaha. Om Sri Bhudevji Namaha. Om Sri Neela Devji Namaha. Om Sri Goda Devji Namaha. Om Sri Anantaya Namaha. Om Sri Garudaya Namaha. Om Sri Mate Vishwaksenaya Namaha. Om Sri Sadagopaya Namaha. Om Sri Mate Ramanujaya Namaha. Om Sri Madhvaravaramunaye Namaha. Svacharyebhyo Namaha. Purvacharyebhyo Namaha. Samastaparivaraya Sarvadivya Mangala Vigrahaya Srimate Narayana Namaha. Please repeat everyone. Samasta
Samasta
Parivaraya
Paribhaya
Sarvadivya
Sarvadivya
Mangala
Mangala
Vigrahaya
Vigrahaya
Srimate
Srimate
Narayanaya
Narayanaya
Namaha.
Namaha.
Adaravindayoho Pushparchanam Samarpayami. Please arrange a agarbatti, dhupam. Dhupam Nanavida Parimalapatra Pushpanjalim Samarpayami. Dhupam Agrapayami. Yeah. Is there bill? Yeah. ओम समस्त परिवाराय सर्वदिव्यमंगल विग्रहाय श्रीमते नारायणाय नमः। नानाविध परिमल पत्र पुष्पांजलिं समर्पयामि। धूपम आग्रापयामि। जय बोलो श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण भगवान की जय। धूपम आग्रापयामि। ओम मूर्तानं दिवो अरतिं पृथिव्या वैश्वानरमृताय जातमग्निं कविगं सम्राजमति दिञ्जनानाम् आसन्नापात्रं जनयन्त देवाः। धूपम् आग्रापयामि। दीपं सन्दर्शयामि। धूपदीपानन्तरं शुद्ध आचमनीयं समर्पयामि। And next is the Mahanivedana. What you are prepared, please arrange the Naivedyam. What you are prepared, please arrange in front of the Lord Narayana, and Swamiji will offer the each one Naivedyam to the Lord Sriman Narayana. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha. Swamiji, please offer the Naivedyam to the Sriman Narayana, Lord. Om Pranaya Swaha. Om Apanaya Swaha. Om Vyanaya Swaha. Om Udanaya Swaha. Om Samanaya Swaha. Om Brahmane Swaha. Madhye Madhye Paniyam Samarpayami. Once completed the Naivedyam, again the sprinkle of water 3 times, lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Madhye Madhye Paniyam Samarpayami. Uttara Poshanam Samarpayami. Hasta Prakshalanam Samarpayami. Pada Prakshalanam Samarpayami. Please arrange tambulam like betel nuts and betel leaves with the fruit. Otherwise, if you have fruits, then you can add the money like 51 rands or 101 rands. Add the money with the tambulam and offer to the Lord Sriman Narayan.
How much you said, Swamiji? 51 then.
Yeah, 51 or 101 rands.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, if there is any devotees interested to the offer, no problem. Lord will accept everything.
That's what Swamiji said. God will accept any more than 51 rand if you want.
Just I am saying 51 rands only.
Thank you, Swamiji. We're making some money today.
Yeah, nice, nice. Om Mato Deva Avantu Noyato Vishnu Pruthivya Sabdadamabihi. Swamiji, I asked you only 51 rands only, but we got many more.
Rest is going to Swamiji. I can stand whole day like this. Okay.
Okay, ready, Swamiji?
Nice. Okay. Please hold all the dakshina with the fruits. Ato deva avantu noyito Vishnu vijakrame prithivya saptadamabihi padara vindayoho suvarna mantra pushpa dakshinam samarpayami. Please offer the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. And please arrange the Aarti, Karpur.
Camper.
There's a container for sorry. Container for sorry.
Kim.
Yeah, one is done.
She's blocking me.
Is devotees anyone have the fruits and coconuts? After you can offer.
You to offer this here. Potential.
Yeah, everybody please stand up. Yeah, everybody please stand up and get the darshan of Aarti. Shriyakantaya Kalyana Nidaye Nidaye. Please, bell. Yeah. Shriyakantaya Kalyana Nidaye Nidayertinam. Sri Venkata Nivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Kalyanadbhuta Gastraya Kamitartha Pradayine. Srimad Venkatanathaya Srinivasaya Mangalam. Mangalam Kosalendraya Mahaniya Gunatmane. Chakravarti Nanojaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam. Mangalasasanaparaihi Madacharya Purogamaihi. Sarvaischa Purvaihi Acharyaihi Satkrutaya Astu Mangalam. Sri Lakshmi Narayana Bhagavan ki Jai. Sri Bhagavad Ramanujans Swami Ji Maharaj ki Jai. Govinda. Please raise your voice. Govinda. No. Indian devotees are also waiting for your voice. Like Govinda Namam. Govinda. Yeah. Nice, thank you. And please hold the flowers. Acharyaji. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padagam Sada Pasyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuradatam Tadvipra Aso Vipanyavo Ojagravam Sasamindade Vishnor Yat Paramam Padam Pariya Apya Anantaraya Yasarvastomo Diratravutama Maharpavati Sarvasyapye Sarvasya Jitye Sarvamevadena Apnoti Sarvanjeti Om Narayanaya Vitmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat Om Mahadevki Cha Vitmahe Vishnu Patni Cha Dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayat. Please offer the flowers, lotus feet of Lord Narayana.
All.
Yeah, please offer the flowers.
All the flowers.
Lotus feet of Narayana.
Must put all. Must put all the flowers.
Yes. We need some for devotees also.
Okay.
Yeah, please repeat after me. Mantrahinam. Kriyahinam. Bhaktihinam. Janardana. Yat pujitam. Maya deva. Paripurnam. Tadastute. Kayena. Vacha. Manasa.
Manasa
Indriyairva
Indrinema
Buddhyatmanava
Nama
Prakrute
Prakrute
Svabhavat
Subhavat
Karomi
Karomi
Yadyat Sakalam
Sakalam
Parasmai Narayanayeti
Narayana
Samarpayami
Samarpayami
Sarvam
Sri
Krishnarpanamastu
Krishnarpanamastu
Jai Bolo Sri Lakshmi Narayan Bhagwan
Bhagwan
ki
ki
Jai.
Okay, just please find out every place in the statue from the top to bottom. There is a Adishesa like Ramanuja and Shanka Chakra. Like please show to the devotee Swamiji. The Adishesa, it's the avatar of the Lord Ramanuja. The Ramanuja first avatar is the Adishesa and the second avatar is the Ramanuja. Always Ramanuja is have with the Lord Narayana. And that is the chakra. Right hand, the Narayana's right hand chakra. It is giving the blessings and the chakra is indicates of the abhayam. Everybody get the darshan of the chakra, Sudarshan chakra. And the Shankam is like a Panchajanyam. Panchajanyam. Shankam. Once if we will listen the sound of the Shankam, we can receive all the peace and power of the Lord Narayana. That's why have the Shankam Lord Narayana. And the right hand is Abhaya Hastam. The Narayana's right hand is the Abhaya Hastam. Abhaya means no fear. If we see the holy hand of Lord Narayana, we can receive all the blessings from that hand only. Okay? And again that second one more hand have the Gada. Gada, it is a weapon of the Lord Narayana. We are called Kaumodaki also, Sanskrit name. As the Sanskrit name is Kaumodaki, also we are called Gada. And lotus feet of Lord Narayana. The below place. Everybody get the darshan of the Lord Narayana Sripada. Jai Bolo Sri Lakshmi Narayan Bhagwan ki Jai. And today we are getting the very, very, very auspicious darshan of the Lord Narayana, decorated with flower garland and cloths and sindoor and everything. Once we will enter in the ashram, don't forget to the pranamam to the Sriman Narayana Murti. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And the last prayer is the for world peace. You know, right now, not only in India, not only in South Africa, every countries are getting very troubles due to Corona. That's why we are going to pray for the world peace, right? Everybody do namaskaram and pray to the Lord Narayana. Please remove every obstacles and all type of diseases like Corona and everything. We want to do many more seva, many more kainkariam to the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. That's why please remove everything in the world. Everybody close your eyes and please repeat the Narayana Mahamantra 8 times. Om Namo Narayanaya.
Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana.
Narayanaya.
Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana.
Narayanaya. Om Namo 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 Narayanaya. Everybody do namaskaram again and please concentration at the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. We are going to pray for the world peace. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samastaah sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasyasalini देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः कावेरी वर्ततां काले काले वर्षतु वासवः श्रीरङ्गनाथो जयतु श्रीरङ्गश्रीश्च वर्धताम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु प्लीज रिपीट
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु Okay, completed our prayers with very good devotion, also successfully. And next Hawan, right? What is the next?
Hawan.
Okay. Please, devotees, prepare for the Hawan. And once completed the Hawan, we will get the blessings from the Lord Narayana. And our prayer also will be concluded. Shyam Subhatito Sri Bhagavadajnaya Bhagavad Kainkarya Rupena Loka Kalyanartham Yadhashakti Aktottarisata Sri Narayana Attakshari Mahamantra Havanam Karishye Yayami Yanman Samarpayami Om Namo. Is there anyone, is there for counting 108 times? Please, every devotees, please sit down and watch the Havan. And we are going to start the Narayana Acharya Mahamantra Havan. Once you listen Swaha, then offer ghee and Havan start. Right? Make sure everyone speak the Mahamantra very loudly and also equally. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Please speak everyone. Om Namo Narayana Swaha.
One second.
Are you ready to start the Havan?
Yes,
Okay, speak loudly. Om Namo Narayanaya Swaha.
Swaha.
Namo
Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Om Namo Narayana Swaha. Namo Narayana Swaha. Om 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 Namo Narayana Swaha. Namo Narayana Swaha. Om 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 Namo Narayana Swaha. Namo Narayana Swaha. Om 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 Namo Narayana Swaha.
Yeah, completed 108 times.
Yes.
You can use one cloth and the Hawan kund you can put the middle place of the floor and distribute the Hawan stuff to every devotees, just little bit. Every devotees will come and do 3 pradakshinams around the Hawan kund and they will offer the Hawan stuff and they will get the blessings from the Yajna Purusha.
Okay, if everybody can just use the pathway there. Whoever's in the front, exactly what Guru said. Hawan, 3 times, and you can come out this way. So join the pathway on the side here, please. This makes it a little bit easier. All around the pathway.
Everyone will come line.
Yes, Guru.
And get Havan stuff.
Wait.
Do 3 pradakshinams to the Homa Kunda.
Right. All can collect around here now and come through this way.
Kimlan's got it.
Yeah, Kimlan's got it. We'll be out. On that way.
While this is going on, Vasudeva, just make sure the parking does not get jammed. As cars are coming down,
Please, devotees, anyone devotee, please sing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.
Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Jai Bolo Sriman Narayan Bhagavan ki
Jai.
Also, Swami ji, please, you can also take the Hawan Tilak.
Yeah, I took
Yes,
it.
yes, yes.
You took it. Then we ready
Try
for
to
Aarti.
take with a spoon or something.
Any more temper? No,
Black
there's
cat.
no temper there.
We just take it from there.
There's no more camphor left.
No, take the block. Okay, just
No, what is going to do?
okay. Only the dish.
But don't mix the fire. Don't.
We ready for Aarti?
Please prepare, devotees, please prepare for the Aarti.
Yeah, tell me ready for that.
Also,
We
we
ready?
need to, yes, we need to sing the Aarti song.
Can you sing?
Any volunteer, please come and shift the Hawan Kund, please, to another place.
Yes. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. Gautam Acharya, can you sing the Aarti for us? Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Might not last.
Gautam Acharya, can we add some ghee to the Aarti?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, get them. Then let him. Can we see what we do?
Devotees, be prepared to sing the Aarti song.
You can say.
Just put it in, yeah.
Yeah, put more.
There is no bati there. It's cut out.
I am seeing every devotee is very happy.
On the tray.
They're using the lighter.
Which Aarti?
He's gonna sing the Aarti.
Which Aarti?
Which Aarti they want? The Ramanujan, the Acharyaji, the Ramanuja Aarti.
Narayan.
Yeah, just give us a few minutes. For
Few
the
minutes.
Aarti.
We're just getting the Aarti organized. Hold on.
Okay, okay.
Tell him it's a bit windy. Ask him if he can do it with the agarbatti.
Gautam Acharya, it's a little bit windy here. Can we do it with the agarbatti?
With the agarbatti. Wait.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Right.
No problem. Wait, we'll check this out.
Smokers, green smokers.
Wait, mother, bring it aside.
The ones that go behind the
Yeah, you got to pull the chilam first.
Green smokers, one stick.
yeah, they
Yeah,
go
but
behind the Gaushala.
Acharyaji, they need to pull the chilam properly, then it'll light.
This one is video. Video, yeah. What you dropped?
My boy. Guru is never wrong. You need to bring the two donkeys from outside, please.
Oh, is there?
To ask the two donkeys to help us from the back.
Guys, come. We ready go, Maharaj? We are ready.
Please, sound.
If you can sing the Aarti for us.
O Sri Akantaya Kalyana Nidaye Nidayethinam Sri Venkatanivasaya Srinivasaya Mangalam Astu Sri Stanakasturi Vasana Vasidorase Sri Astikirnadaya Devarajaya Mangalam Kamalakutakasturi Kartanankita Vaksade Yadamadrinivasaya Sampatputraya Mangalam Neelachalanivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Subhadra Prananadaya Sri Jagannataya Mangalam Sotrishta Malika Bandakanda Bandatrajishtave Vishnuchitra Tanojaye Godaye Nityamangalam Srinagariyam Mahapuriyam Tamrapanyuttare Tate Sri Tindrani Mooladamne Sadagopaya Mangalam Tejova Sainjanadova Sripadarvedi Satviki Vidarkyaya Mahaprajni Vasakaraya Mangalam Mangala Sasana Parirmadacharya Purogamehi Sarvaisya Purvairacharyehi Satkృతాయాస్తు Mangalam Sri Lakshmi Narayana Bhagavan ki
Jai.
Jai Bolo Srimad Ramanuj Swami Ji Maharaj ki
Jai.
Okay. Aarti.
We waiting for you, Gautam Charlie.
Okay. Om Jai Jagadish
Dish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Bhakt Jano ke Sankat, Bhakt Jano ke Sankat. Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Sorry, can I go in? Sukha sampati ghar aave, Sukha sampati ghar aave, Kashta mite tan ka, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Mata pita tum mere, शरण गहूँ मैं किसकी, स्वामी शरण गहूँ मैं किसकी, तुम बिना और न दूजा, प्रभु बिना और न दूजा, दास करूँ किसकी, ओम जय जगदीश हरे। तुम अंतर्यामी, स्वामी तुम अंतर्यामी,
परमेश्वर तुम सबके स्वामी। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। तुम करुणा के सागर तुम पालन करता स्वामी तुम पालन करता। मैं सेवक तुम स्वामी मैं सेवक तुम स्वामी कृपा करो करता। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। तुम हो एक अघोषक सबके प्राणपति स्वामी सबके प्राणपति। जिस विध मिलो दया में जिस विध मिलो दया में सुमति। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। दीन बंद दुख हरता तुम रक्षक मेरी स्वामी तुम रक्षक मेरे। करुणा हास बढ़ाओ करुणा हास बढ़ाओ शरण पड़ा तेरे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। दीन पार मिटाओ पाप हरो देवा स्वामी पाप हरो देवा। श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ संतन की सेवा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। तन मन धन सब तेरा स्वामी सब कुछ है तेरा। तेरा तुझको अर्पण तेरा तुझको अर्पण क्या लागे मेरा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सूर्य नारायण नारायण ओम सूर्य नारायण नारायण ओम। ओम जय जगदीश हरे।
जंप क्या की
जय श्रीमन
जय श्रीमन नारायण।
Yeah. Please offer to the every devotee. Please distribute to the flower petals to every devotees. They will offer the flowers at the lotus feet of Lord Narayana, and they will do darshan. They will do namaskaram and get the blessing from Narayana. Yatinji, please distribute Hawan like flower petals to the every devotees.
Actually, it's not possible to get every devotee in, but we can.
We voted on the so we can skip that.
This group. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And please, what you offer the prasadam to the Narayana, you can put the food, Mahaprasad.
जय श्रीमन नारायण।
Jai Shriman Narayan.
जय श्रीमन नारायण।
Thank you, Acharyaji.
Once you complete in the satsang, if there is any time, give me a phone call to me. I will give you a few words at the presence of Acharyaji in the satsang.
जय
If
श्रीमन
there is
नारायण।
any time. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
श्रीमन नारायण।
Thank you.
Thank you.
सुख संपत्ति घर आवे सुख संपत्ति घर आवे सच मिटे तन का। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। माता पिता तुम मेरे शरण गाऊं मैं किसकी, स्वामी शरण गाऊं मैं किसकी। तुम बिना और न दूजा, प्रभु बिना और न दूजा, आस करूं किसकी। ओम जय जगदीश हरे। तुम
Guru Bhakta Parabrahma Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Devo Maheshwara Bolo Narayana Narayana Bhakti
The music.
One, two, sun. Shriman Narayan, Haryo Narayan Rama. Shriman Narayan, Haryo Narayan Rama. Shriman Narayan, Haryo Narayan Rama. Shriman Narayan, Haryo Narayan Rama.
हरि ओम नमो नारायण तल्ली तंद्री गुरुदेवं पाद पंकजं परमात्मरे हरि ओम नमो नारायण गुरु सत्य पाद पंकजं परमात्मरे नारायण परमेश्वरा दारदार नील देवा धनवाई श्री राम शरण कृष्ण मम्मुगा भूमे करुण भवानिधि हरे रामा श्री राम बुद्धेश्वर भक्त काल सिद्ध करुण भक्त काल नीरे मगधी भूमे नारायण मा पाप करुणा చేసి నరకోప బాధలికను మా పాప వృద్ధలంబక మామేలు మీ నారాయణ हरि ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नमो नारायण नी पादमुला गुण नमस्ते हरि हरि नारायण गोविंदा नारायण मूर्ति गोविंदा हरि उमा देवी गोविंदा हरि नारायण गोविंदा हरि नारायण
Govinda.
Jai Shri Narayan. I'd like all of the guest speakers to come to the front, please. There's Governor. This one ready. Pastor Roy Sarji. Pastor Kubin Ramlagan. Acharya Shyam Ramanuj. Dev Rishi Das. Bruce Gator. Ravi Pillai. Not sure if Kenneth Nutola is present. Councillor Bana. Sagar Singh. Becky Kusi. Jamil Isu. Temba Mbubu. And Colonel Ramchandra. And Yatin Soni. Jai Shri Narayan. Our Honorable Guru, His Holiness Acharya Shyam Ramanuj, honored guests and dear devotees. My name is Khatija. I'm a devotee here at the Sri Narayan Dham. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this momentous celebration, the month of Ramanujans. Today is indeed a blessed day for us here at the Sri Narayan Dham. I'm the program director of this evening. Before I proceed to call the first speaker, I would like to convey my duas before we begin. Okay. In the name of Allah, most gracious and most merciful, O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the decline of your blessings, the removal of your safety, the sudden onset of your punishment, and from all that displeases you. Amen. Okay. The significance of this celebration will be explained in detail by our Secretary General, Yatin Soni. We have allocated approximately 5-minute time slots for each speaker. I call Yatin Soni, our first speaker.
Jai Shri Narayan. Before I begin, I'd like to pay my obeisance to my Guru, Acharya Shyam Ramanuj. My name is Vishwadhar Ramanuj Das, and it gives me a great pleasure on behalf of our organization to introduce you to Acharya Shyam Ramanuj, the Sri Narayan Dham, and the mission that he is fulfilling. Our Guru, His Holiness Acharya Shyam Ramanuj, is a world-renowned, bona fide spiritual master who is both self and God-realized. He hails from the Guru Parampara system. This means that knowledge was transcendently passed on through the disciplic succession of bona fide representatives of Godhead in an undiluted manner until it was received by Acharyaji's Guru, Swami Sudarshan Acharyaji Maharaj. That spiritual potency was then passed on to Acharyaji so that he could continue the mission of spreading awareness of Sanatana Dharma and Sri Vaishnavism, both locally and around the world. Acharyaji regularly iterates to us that Sanatana Dharma belongs to all of mankind and not just to Hindus. Sanatana Dharma is universal and it belongs to the Christians, Muslims, Jews and every other religion out there. The spiritual potency that flows through Acharyaji is immeasurable, but this was not always the case. Prior to 2013, Acharyaji was deeply immersed with materialism and had no intention of becoming a guru. In his material life, he had flourished in numerous positions such as becoming a policeman, a prominent politician, a director at a law firm, and a successful businessman amongst other titles. He was also a true humanitarian and involved with various community upliftment projects. This is very important to acknowledge that it is very important to acknowledge that all these roles equipped Acharyaji with his character to carry out his role as a guru. After being drawn to his guru from a picture frame, he went to his guru's ashram in Faridabad, India in 2013 to pay respects to him. Through Acharyaji's undivided love for Guruji and an unexpected turn of events, he was offered to take formal initiation and accept fulfilling his guru's mission. In that instant, Acharyaji surrendered 100% to his guru and relinquished all of his material attachments. In return, Acharyaji was endowed with all of Guruji's potency, and all Vedic injunctions were now available at his fingertips. Acharyaji left behind millions of rands in his material life because he realized that helping all of humanity was more important than just helping his own family. Acharyaji returned to South Africa and began conducting satsangs in a classroom with 15 people. Today, Acharyaji has taken to the world stage from this platform at the ashram with monthly viewerships on Facebook and other social media platforms in the hundreds of thousands. His discourses are enlightening local and international devotees of all races, cultures, and ages in over 45 countries from every continent on this planet. He approaches his discourses like a classroom setup, where Acharyaji calls it the world is Lord Narayan's classroom. This is where the classroom is the ashram, the teacher is the guru, and the student is the disciple. He engages you with questions during his entire discourse and uses practical examples, logic, and common sense to convey his messages and thereafter corroborate it with scriptural injunctions. In addition, Acharyaji is determined to clear up the confusion in Sanatana Dharma and also reunite the world as one diverse family. He has recently conducted a series of comprehensive discourses on the topic of oneness, where he explains the similarities between Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Subsequent to 2013, Acharyaji has traveled 3 more times to India on a pilgrimage to follow in the footsteps of his own guru, Swami Sudarshan Acharyaji Maharaj, Lord Sri Ramanuj, and Lord Sri Ram and Lord Sri Krishna when they were down on earth. His pilgrimages took him both to the north and south of India and allowed him to establish his spiritual roots within the Sri Sampradaya. He was able to meet and connect with other senior authority gurus within the Sri Sampradaya who share the same vision as Acharyaji. Having established himself at the Sri Narayan Dham, Acharyaji is transforming his devotees' lives. Outside of the spiritual knowledge he expounds, Acharyaji is also continuously counseling and assisting people from the various stages of his own personal life that led him to become a guru. Acharya and the organization is also involved with numerous social welfare projects. 60 underprivileged children of various ages, religions, and backgrounds, called our angels, have been adopted from a school in Newlands, Durban, where they are provided with food and basic necessities on a monthly basis. These children are very dear to Acharyaji. Also, throughout the year, the organization supports several underprivileged neighboring communities and our angels with frequently planned feeding schemes. There were numerous scheduled during the COVID-19 lockdown last year, with food, clothes, and blankets distributed. Some of these events were also collaborated with Moulanas and pastures of neighboring communities who also came out to assist us. The Sri Narayan Dham is not a faith-based organization and religious program, but a spiritual upliftment center. It was officially inaugurated in May 2019 by a Sri Vaishnava Pancharata Agama Pandit belonging to the same tradition as us, and our Goshala was opened in May 2018. Our ashram has also made history as the first Sri Sampradaya ashram to be opened on the African continent. The Sri Sampradaya is the main Vaishnava school founded by Lord Narayan's consort, Mother Lakshmi. It is the oldest of 4 bona fide traditions, and it takes its name from Lord Sri Ramanuj Acharya. It follows the Vedic philosophies of Vishesh Advaita, as expounded by Lord Sri Ramanuj Acharya. So Lord Sri Ramanujacharya was born over 1,000 years ago, and he spent over 60 years synthesizing Vedic injunctions. He picked up from the works of Yamanujacharya and Natha Muni, and he re-established Vaishnavism. During his life, Lord Sri Ramanujacharya became a spiritual, religious, and social reformer, while spreading Vaishnavism between the north and the south of India. In order to pay tribute to his sacrifices in a similar manner, Acharyaji is tangibly practicing oneness and reuniting all religions, races, and society in general. This is to personify equality for all, where we respect all, but we worship our own. The world is one diverse family, and it is the ashram's mission to carry out the vision of Lord Sri Ramanuj. From the 5th till the 27th of May is therefore a very significant month for the Sri Narayan Dham, because it commemorates a few milestones. The inauguration of the ashram in Gaushala is on the 5th of May. The birthday of Lord Sri Ramanuj is also on the 5th of May. The 12 Elvas, 3 of whom were born during the same period. The birthday of Swami Sudarshan Acharya Maharaj is on the 27th of May, and him leaving his mortal coil is on the 22nd of May. Today's public event is therefore to pay tribute to the sacrifices of these great saints by tangibly practicing oneness and reuniting all religions, races, and society in general. Jai Shri Narayan.
Thank you, Yatin. I call upon Les Govender, who is the National Legislator Representative of the Inkatha Freedom Party.
Thank you very much, Program Director. You know, they say when your spirits are low, that is when you need spiritual upliftment, and that comes from a Dham like this. And really it is an immense honor for me, Guruji, to have been invited to be a part of this celebration during this month of May. I want to recognize the presence of the Honorable Ravi Pillai MEC for Economic Development, Tourism, Environmental Affairs, as well as the many councillors who are here. I acknowledge your presence, leaders from religious organizations. And I think, Guruji, what you have done in bringing various religious groupings together, bringing various political groups together, is a practical example of your teachings, in the sense that you serve mankind. And I think we as public representatives should also take from you and serve mankind in that spirit. No matter which political party we belong to, no matter which religious grouping we belong to, or what race group we come from, but serving mankind is something that we should all hold close to our hearts. Having said that, I was also asked to say something about the political party that I come from. The Inkatha Freedom Party was founded in 1975 by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who is now the President Emeritus of the IFP. And I'm sure many of you have seen him over the past few weeks on TV, attending to the affairs of the royal family, and you would have seen that he has his hands full insofar as that is concerned. But the IFP is a political grouping that is made up of people of all race groups, of all religions. And on the topic of religion, I must say that Prince Buthelezi has always said to us that we must place religion before anything else. And in keeping with that, every one of our meetings always open and close in prayer. And one of his very important features is that whenever we have a national meeting, he will carry 3 books with him: the Quran, the Bible, and the Bhagavad Gita. And he'll ask somebody in the audience to read an extract pertinent to what is happening in our country at that particular time, and to explain it. Now, I must confess, Guruji, that I read the Bhagavad Gita many years ago, and I forgot most of it. But now I have to go back and read up certain aspects, so that suddenly when he pounces on us, we need to read something, explain it to the largely African community that is there. So, you know, the foundation of the IFP is based on religion. And, you know, I must commend you for the kind of work that you are doing here at the ashram, not only here, but in serving the communities around you. And I'm aware of the kind of work that you do in food distribution, blanket distribution, clothing, and so on. Those are the basic needs that our people aspire for. And you know, in my community work, I come across a lot of people, and I'm sure the other you know, politicians and church-based you know, groups that are here will testify to this, that people are crying out for basic needs: food, shelter, clothing. That is what they need. And if we cannot respond to that call, then we are not serving mankind. And once again, I want to thank you very much for making it possible for us to all be here today. And I think you have really achieved something in bringing us all here together and bringing us together as one family. And I want to thank you on behalf of the President of the IFP, the Honorable V.S. Labisa, and the leadership of the party. They have asked me to convey the good wishes to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Narayan. Call upon our Guruji, Acharya Shyam Ramanuj.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, honored guests. I think my technical people, I asked them to play the South African anthem on this side of the event. For some reason it was not played. However, I am out of my domain. I am out of my domain. In Vishwadhar stated that I was a prominent politician, and I see Vishwan Reddy shocked. He never heard of me. Vishwan, you heard of me? Oh, you heard of me, okay. Because I was a politician in the engine room. I didn't want to be like Vishwan in front of the cameras, alright? So I was a politician in the engine room. We did a lot of work in the background, and that is why some of you may not know me. This journey started 43 years ago. Who's around 58 here? 55, 56, 58? Vishwan, you still alive? 50. Okay. Young Vishwan. So, how many of you were in school during the school boycotts of 1978? 78, school boycotts of 1978. The Soweto riots were in 1976, and then the Indians always coined phrases. So they broke up Soweto into So, We, Two. Alright? And this is when the political seed was planted in my mind. And in 1978, I was a learner at Sastry College. You all remember Sastry College? It was an all-boys school in Durban Central. And we were one of the first schools to come out in support of the boycotts that started in Bruce Gator's town, Bruce, Cape Town. You remember Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Okay. An incident happened because we came from an all-boys school. I was in Standard 8, and then we met at Orient Hall. How many of you remember Orient Hall? Any of you married in Orient Hall? It was a famous venue for Hindu weddings. You remember, it could cater for 5,000 upstairs and downstairs. So we were conducting our school boycotts in this hall. How many of you remember the phrase, Amandla, Awetu, and this is the first time I heard this phrase, a man's law, aware to. And there was an incident that happened with one of our Sastri College boys and a girl from Gandhi Desai. And I was very distressed with this incident because we had just united 5,000 learners at Orient High every day for weeks. We had united in a common fight, and this incident started dividing us. And it was a weekend, and those of you know in those days, for an young Indian to get in politics, you could not tell your parents, you'd get whacked. They were not very active. They said, mind your own business and study. You remember those days, some of us? So I was in this dilemma, and this weekend, I was very, very troubled. I was in Standard 8, my school was in a problem with another school, and I wanted to bring all of us 5,000 learners together. And the seed of oneness was planted in my mind in that weekend, where I had a vision of a South Africa with all political parties, all religious groups, all the diverse cultures, all sitting on one table. So I wrote a long speech. I was a good composition writer. I had a good choice of words, and my English teacher should give me 3 ticks. Like if I said the tide and the ebb and flow of the tide. So it gave me 3 ticks at the end of the sentence. So I was good in preparing a speech. I prepared a very, very long speech. Now when you sit in the audience and see people on the stage, it is not frightening. But when you come on the stage and see 5,000 people looking at you, 10,000 eyes, it is very, very scary, especially since that was my first public speech. So you'll notice, Vishwadhar, my pages were shaking like this. I was so nervous, and they had girls high seated in the front. Imagine a male from Sastri College trembling like a leaf in the presence of girls. Okay? So I had to read my speech very slowly because it was shaking. And later I was congratulated by my friend, Dr. Bisesa, who is practicing in New Zealand at the moment. He said, you spoke just like B.J. Foster. One sentence and you waited for it to sink in. And I said, yes, but that was not the case. I couldn't read my own speech. When my hand got steady, then I read the next line. Okay? So it is 43 years later that the Supreme Lord made me realize this dream in my own ashram. And I thank you. I thank you very much for responding to this invitation and for attending this event. If you see that golden statue, that is our first Guru. That is our first Guru. He had this same vision that I had 43 years ago. And above me, with the yellow, that is my spiritual master. I never met him in my lifetime because he left his material coil 1 year before I joined the institution. Whatever connection I have with him is 100% spiritual. Okay? He said in his discourses, a disciple must create a divine society. So the very first Guru, his instructions are equality for all, respect all, worship your own. I'm doing this today, I'm following our first Guru's instruction. My personal Guru, Swami Sudarshan Acharyaji Maharaj, he said, create a divine society. So I am now, I've planted the seed. Less, I don't know if I'll see the fruits in my lifetime, but I know that everyone present here today, both the speakers, the politicians, the religious leaders, I have managed to cultivate this seed and plant it into your minds today. Okay? And I want to express, I was in politics, I was in many organizations in my lifetime. You all are actually soldiers, not soldiers, you all are generals. To come to this event knowing that your opposition is also here. Okay? I just want to impress upon our political leaders. I have been wearing those shoes as well. Today our strategy is to divide, create hatred and gain votes. Divide, create hatred and gain votes. Let us find another way to gain votes. Wisdom in 20, where's Jessica? Jessica, are you here? Okay. I formed 27 or 28 branches. Jessica, how many branches are formed when we won that one PR seat in Durban for Coke? 27, 28 or 36? 33. Single-handedly in a few weeks. And guess how I did it? I went door to door and I won the hearts of people. And we got that one PR seat. And then I wanted to lead by example, and Jessica will verify, I was number 1 on the PR listing. But I did not take the seat. Yet I created the seat. I gave it to a member that was more senior. Now, if we join politics to synchronize our heartbeat with that of the community, let's win the heart of the community. Let's not divide. This country is divided enough. I'm so pleased to hear at this point in time, I hardly listen to the news. Somehow on my phone, I heard that our state president, I have a lot of respect for him. He's in a very difficult position as a human being. Okay, it's not easy being a state president in his position. But there is some cleansing that's taking place, and I'm pleased. I'm also pleased to note, Khatija is the Secretary General of this organization. I nominated her yesterday. We had our annual general meeting. She's Muslim, she's fasting, but I brought her into this institution, all right? Saudi Arabia has announced that it will be compulsory for the Ramayana and the Mahabharata as an education in the education system. As education in the education system, compulsory, okay? What can be more greater than that? Is this dividing people, or is this making each other understand our differences? I want to sum up. I ran a series of programs on oneness, and I want to sum up quickly. Our differences are only external. Our differences are only external. Our differences are in our religions. Our differences are in our countries. Our differences are in our political parties. Our differences are all external. Okay? But if, and I've explained how you boil and skin a chicken, if you had to skin all of us here, no one will be able to identify whether you are black, white, colored or Indian, whether you're a Muslim, Hindu, Christian or Jew. Internally, we are all identical and all our organs are identical. It is only this external difference that is creating disharmony in the world. And I'm pleading with you, you are leaders. This is why I brought you. You are leaders, you have great followings. Just this simple message. Our similarity outweighs our differences so far that we cannot even calculate. I thank all of you for attending, my guests and devotees and the general public. Please stay this one. Please stay for a sumptuous vegetarian meal. Okay, sumptuous vegetarian meal. We had very old people in their 70s cooking from the morning. All right. I thank you all. Jai Shriman Narayan.
Thank you, Guruji. I welcome Mr. Sagar Singh, PR Councillor of this ward from the Democratic Alliance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored dignitaries from political parties and respected holy priests from various denominations. It's a pleasure to stand in front of you today. My brief was to speak a bit about the DA as well as about the oneness. I'm going to start with the oneness first. I'll tell you why. Because we're on the topic right now. And Swamiji has just created this platform. You know, I have been a Sai devotee for a long, long time. The movement started in my grandfather's hotel in the 70s in the Admiral, and ever since then we kids grew up with that philosophy of there is only one caste, the caste of humanity, and there's only one religion, the religion of love. So that speaks directly to the oneness that we're here for today. You know, and a few years ago, my mom, myself, and my daughter were on a trip overseas, and we arrived at Addis Ababa, and my mom got sick. Put her in a hospital, and she required 2 pints of blood. Oh, Addis is basically predominantly African, right? I couldn't get Indian blood, and I realized also, again, the value of humanity. That 2 pints of Ethiopian blood gave my mother life for 2 extra days. And, you know, Baba's teaching of there's only one caste, the caste of humanity, and there's only one religion, the religion of love, actually struck home. And I realized I was living that dream. And besides that, I was very fortunate. I've lived 5 years in Bombay, and my daughter went to a Catholic school. I have made numerous visits to Haji Ali, if anybody knows what Haji Ali is. It's a shrine like Sufi. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to go to various temples. So I lived that dream of the oneness of God. And I'll just say to you today that, you know, we could be many people of different faiths in different parts of the world, and we get attacked at the same time. And each one of us with of different faiths start praying to God, and we use our God's name, as I say, and we all get saved. What does it teach you? It teaches a simple lesson. There's only one God, because you all use different names, but you all got saved. Yet we fight about the oneness of God. So this should stop. And hopefully, as we educate ourselves and, you know, going forward, we will realize that we will develop this liberal view of God. That God is one, God is there for all of us. There's no my God and your God, or my God is better than your God. All this has to end at some point in time. I've also been fortunate that I've read the Gita 5 times, and it forms the foundation of my life. You know, I was 26 years old when I went through a bad phase, and when I came to the chapter on karma, I could understand life better. And I always tell a lot of people today, if you ever picked up the book and you read it, it's a handbook for life. It's a book that will teach you how to live life, how to handle crisis, and how to overcome them. So that's a little bit of the oneness of God and a bit of religion. And now let me talk about the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance has been in the political milieu for a long time and has changed names over the years. And we had a sole member, Helen Suzman, sitting in Parliament, fighting the cause of justice for all. And today we have the Democratic Alliance still doing the same. We run a few municipalities. You'll notice we run them very efficiently. We run them with clean audits. We run them with accountability. And we run them in the best interest of the people we serve. Democratic Alliance believes in freedom, fairness, and opportunity for every single South African. If you look at our caucus is by far the most diverse you'll ever see. If you come to Durban, you'll see it for yourself. One of these days when we have a council meeting, just tune into the Acharyaji's Facebook website and you'll see for yourself our diverse caucus. And we represent really the Rainbow Nation. And going forward, the elections are around the bend. It's for you to make decisions. You can look at the long term. You know, I've been a student in 1976. I went to school. So, you know, all students, we had one dream, was to free South Africa, free Mandela, unban the ANC, which we achieved. And when Mandela was released, I cried. I was living in Bombay with my TV on, watching him. And then when he arrived at Eden Garden, he was welcomed in Eden Garden. I'm sure most of you will remember. You know, I had taped that episode for my parents, and tears just rolled down my cheek. Because what started off in 1976, my political journey, I could see a free Mandela. At one point, we never thought it would happen, but it happened. When I went to university, I lost a year. My first year at university, all my friends, we failed because we didn't know what to do. We just went out and boycotted without writing exams. But after the first year, we learned how to boycott. Nobody taught us, but we learned the hard way. And, you know, now that we're coming to the 2021 local government elections, we have a lot of challenges. The city is challenged. You know all of the challenges. I'm not going to I'm not playing politics here. I'm just saying, you know the challenges, and you know what you need to do if you want change, or if you want to go with the status quo. If you go with the status quo, we could go the way of Zimbabwe. So it's up to you now to make your decision. I can't force the issue, but you need to think. I believe every human being should be a thinker. Every human being should be an intellectual. Every human being should utilize all the knowledge at their disposal to make an informed decision. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I call upon Pastor Kuben Ramlavan from the Jehovah Jireh Church.
Thank you, Master Ceremonies. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me, Savan Guruji. Thank you so much. I want to start and congratulate this ashram here on the achievement of the statue that you had out there. May the Lord bless you. May God continue to have His hand upon you and bless you unendingly for erecting such a beautiful statue out there. Well, my privilege and honor to address all of you this afternoon. Just a few words, not too much, but I'm going to give a pastor mic. It's dangerous. And a pastor can go on hours and you could be sitting here for a couple of hours, but I promise you in a few minutes I'll be done. Okay. So firstly, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for making yourself available. I know it's Mother's Day tomorrow. Ladies, you want to go home and prepare for Mother's Day. But in saying all this today, we thank you for the unity in faith. I thank God for all of us that have come out here today to share in this goodness of this day. to come together and share in this wonderful time together. Even though we're from different faiths, we're from different backgrounds, we've come to celebrate this wonderful day with this ashram. And may God bless us all for taking time off and sharing. You know, I think about occasions like this all the time. How come we can't come together as men of faith, of different faiths, but can't come together and share in the oneness of God? Politicians from different parties, how we can't come together and share in the oneness of God. After all, God is the magnificent power behind all of us. So we come together knowing that even though we come from different backgrounds, we come from different faiths, we come from different political arenas, we still come with oneness in our heart, and that is God is love. And so if I can share that with you this afternoon, whether you be Muslim like my sister, whether you be Christian like me, and Hindus like most of us sitting out here, God is love. And if we can just entertain that for a few seconds in our minds, allow God to speak to us, allow God to minister to us, allow God to invoke His blessing upon us, I think we'll go a long way in achieving those things that we aspire to have in our lives. May God bless us, ashram, with all the blessings of God. May this good God of heaven and above bless you with unending blessings. May you forever be blessed with whatever you need here in this place, so that you can complete the work that you started. May God bless you people from the ashram. May God continue to pour His blessing upon you. May His favor be upon you, and may His grace always be abiding in your life. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Kuben, for your blessings. I call upon Pastor Roy Sarabji from the Bethlehem Revival Center.
Thank you, ma'am. I greet you all in the wonderful name of Jesus. I count it a privilege to be here. This is actually my third visit to the ashram. I want to greet Guruji Shyam, his committee, his workers out here, who receive us so well when we enter this place. As we came down, two young girls were walking up, and they just greeted us. Sometimes you don't get this in the church, we don't get this in our neighborhood, but as Brian and I walked down, these little girls welcomed us. So we are really welcome here this afternoon. I want to take the opportunity of sharing something that happened to me this year. I'm a pastor, my name is Pastor Roy, and just like Pastor Guruji Shyam, this is my 43rd year in the ministry. I was called to serve the Lord in Flush Street, opposite my ward councillor's house. 43 years ago, at the age of 22, I was called to serve the Lord. As I said the last time I came, when I was desperate for help, if I heard a voice that said, go to the ashram, I would have been a Guruji today. If there was a voice that said, go to the mosque, I would have definitely been a Moulana today. But the voice that spoke to me in my most down moment was, go to church. And that's why I'm here today in the church for 43 years. I live in a diverse community, a very disadvantaged community. We live in a flooded area where people don't know where at times the next meal is going to come from. They don't know at times where they're going to get at least a 10 rand to put power in their boxes. So I live in a community as that. I have never left the community for the past 45 years. I stay there and I refuse to move, even though I had opportunities to live in luxurious areas, but I chose to live with my people. But I want to say to you today, I want to speak to you about the Bible. I've never read the Bhagavad Gita, neither have I entered into the Quran. But I want to share today with you, not from the Bible also. I want to share my life with you personally, that something that happened to me this year. On the 31st of December 2020, which was a Friday night, I conducted my last COVID funeral of a mother of 75 years old in pouring rain. Somebody, if any of you can remember that Friday night, it seemed like the sky was going to crack because of the thundering and the lightning. I conducted that funeral in a small marquee, small gazebo rather. We was drenched. All we had was the mother's body there. We had no speeches, couldn't sing songs. We just had the family there. And after laying her down to rest at Clarence, I reached home in pouring rain. And beloved, as I entered my house, my body gave up. My body just gave up. My joints gave up. I knew that I was now very sick. I called my wife, I said, Sush, I'm sick. She was worried because my wife has a lot of commodities. She's very ill at this moment that I'm speaking. And I knew I had the virus. My body shut down completely. I lay on the bed and that was it. I couldn't get up the next morning. I stayed in that position the whole week. My body went down. My lungs were giving up. I had no strength at all. I couldn't eat, couldn't bath, I couldn't talk, I couldn't brush my teeth, I couldn't comb my hair, I couldn't change my clothes. I had to lay in that position because my lungs was giving up on me. All I could think of was to survive. I didn't think about the next church service. I didn't even think about my family. I didn't even think about anything. All I was interested in is just trying to live and survive. 15 days passed. And in that 15 days, I was supposed to be buried. I was definitely supposed to be buried. My lungs was breathing at least 5%. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move in bed. I couldn't even have the tablets with the water because I was helpless. But one day, it was on the 16th of January, when I was taken to a doctor's surgery. The doctor was going to treat me outside the surgery because I couldn't move. And I knew that was my last day on the earth. But that Friday night, that Saturday, one night before that, Brother Seelan Pillay, who is not here today, I contacted him at 12 o'clock in the night and told Seelan, please get people up to pray for me because I'm not going to make it. He rallied the people, he awoke them in the night, and the very same night, he sent messages via Facebook throughout the world. I was told later on when I recovered that people in India were praying for me. And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are remembering India in our prayers. And the message went all over, the whole of Chatsworth, whole of Durban, the whole world seemed to know that a man called Pastor Roy is at the point of death. And by this time that I'm fighting for my life, my pastor friends, their wives, their children are being laid to rest. People in the hospital I know, my families are dying. People in the community, I couldn't attend their funerals because I was dying myself. But on the 16th, which was a Sunday, while I was at the surgery, doctor was treating me and I could not walk. He looked at me and he said, Pastor, how old are you? I said, I'm 65 years old. He dropped his head and he said to me, if anything that I do don't work for you, you have to go to the hospital. That was the last place that I ever wanted to be in the time that I was sick. Beloved, while I was there, little did I realize that a group of Christian brothers and sisters rallied together at a cross that I erected in 250 and 240 corner. People came in the numbers. Muslims came to the service. Hindus came to the service. Christians came to the service. Little children were falling on the road and crying to God to help Pastor Roy. People came and fell on the road. They cried bitterly as songs were played, worship was played, words of encouragement was, prayers went up to God to please heal Pastor Roy because we need him more than anyone else. Beloved, I didn't realize all this was happening. But as I came home and they were bringing me back home, I didn't expect to live. But that night, God heard prayers. Muslims prayed on the road. Christians prayed on the road. Hindus prayed on the road. God heard all the prayers. I awoke the next morning, never thinking that I was going to get up. I awoke and found that my body was completely healed. I could breathe. I could talk. I felt like I was in a new world. I stayed in that position for 2 hours. I didn't want to disturb that moment of peace that I had for that after 16 days. I thought if I could just move or move a hand or leg, this thing will start again. But I got up slowly. I was able to use the bathroom. I was able to open the tap and have a glass of water. I was able to go and sit in the lounge and pray. My lungs was healed. I was completely healed. And as I began to walk the streets again, I lost weight. I was as thin as ice. I couldn't walk. I was holding the walls, holding the railings, holding chairs and settees, holding people's hands, taking me here and there. I slowly recovered. And as I drove through Kokoba people screamed, "Thank you, God, for healing Pastor." As I drove to Zanzi town, my Moulanas, my Muslim brothers and sisters, kept waving and flagged me down and said, "Pastor Roy, we've been praying for you." Everywhere I went, people looked at me, never thought that I was going to be alive. I'm here to tell you today, whether you're Hindu, Christian or Muslim, there is a God above that answers prayer. That's the reason I am here today. I never thought I'd live past the 16th of January. So I want to say today, I've come to share my testimony with you. Tell you that this is my third appearance here. It's not going to be the last. I'm going to be here whenever I'm invited. And I want to say today that no matter who we are, when love comes together, there is a shaking in the heavens. And that's why I'm alive today. I have double my strength. I work double my hours. I get up even more earlier. I sleep more late. I go the extra miles now because I always say, "Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord, for giving me one more chance." So I pray today that you will honor God in your way. Be thankful, be grateful, always appreciate what you have. And today I want to close. Thank you for one extra minute. Today is Ramadan time now, and the Muslims were receiving their groceries at the bottom of the shop. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. But beloved, I sat and I looked. In between was Hindus came, Moulanas gave them groceries. Christians came, Moulana gave them groceries. And that's what I call unity. If we can unite today, we can bring down the walls of Jericho. We unite in love today, we can cause a shaking in the heavens above. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Roy. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us. I call upon Bispan Reddy from the African Democratic Church.
Thank you very much. I want to greet you all in the name of Almighty God. I want to thank Guruji for affording us the opportunity to be here this evening. I want to thank the committee and all the members of the Sri Narayan Dham. And I want to greet especially your special guests that are here today, my good friend MEC Ravi Pillai. I see Les Govender, a Member of Parliament, our pastors that are here. I see councillors. I wouldn't mention them all by name, but I know Councillor Ganesh Govender, hardworking councillors, Councillor Ronnie Pillai there from Chatsworth, and I see also my friend Ramesh. I want to recognize you, and all my good friends. Thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be standing here before you in this auspicious month. There's something I want to share with you which I don't think many of you know, and that is your spiritual master, the founder of this great movement is Ramanujan Acharya, right? And there's something about him that you need to know about, and I want to share that with you today. You see, in India, and by the way, Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world. After Hinduism came Islam, came Christianity and all that. And somebody asked me a question the other day, what religion do you belong to? And I said, the answer to that is there are all great religions in the world, but there is one greater religion than all of them, and that is called the religion of love. And guess what? Every religion teaches about love, loving one another. The Bible says, love thy neighbor as thyself. It says, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever shall believe in him shall have life and have it more abundantly. The love that was spoken of in the Bible, and the love that was spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, and the love that was spoken of in the Quran, is the love that we need to have that will bind us together. I see I made notes. We are busy at a conference, Guruji, in the Midlands, and I couldn't disrespect you. I had to come. And so while we're busy there, I made some notes. You know, in Islam it says, love is a gift for mankind. And it is the single most powerful emotion that can break or make a person. And Hinduism says, God is love. Now, Sri Ramanuj Acharya, there's something that he did. In India, the Brahmins would sit in the mountains meditating. They are the knowledge. They are the divine wisdom. And they got this from the Almighty God himself. You see, I don't understand why we fight each other. Because the God of the Bible, the one that Adam and Eve prayed to, and the God of the Quran, and the God of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita is the same God. Do you realize that? And we start to divide ourselves around these. But these Brahmins would sit in the mountains, they would meditate, they knew this, the word, they knew all this, they had all this wisdom, divine wisdom, and the people were completely ignorant. The people on the ground were totally ignorant. And as they sat in the mountains, they saw this. They saw the people were eating meat, eating the pigs. They saw the people killing each other. They saw that there was famine that was in India among all the people, that millions of people were there. And some of these Brahmins, these saints, broke away. And they said, no, we are not going to follow the teaching that we've been taught, which was that they will only share the word or the mantras to select people, which they considered higher caste. You have to be a higher caste in order to get a special mantra. Am I right, Guruji? Now, this was one of the saints that broke away because his heart was with the people. And he said he went and sat in the mountains and he did something that would have cost him his life. He sat in the mountains and he shouted out these mantras. And he made all the people that were in India, all of them, to hear the mantras. So he broke away from the traditions of the Brahmins and the saints because his heart was with the people. Today I'm here to tell you that my party, African Democratic Change, is a party that has its heart with the people. We are not members of a political party. We are activists. Like Swami Ramanujan Acharya, who could not stand it any longer. We live in a country today, and let's accept this as fact, because this is true. If you're doubting me, go and Google it. Check Stats Essay. Check all these research organizations. We live in a country today where over 55% live in abject poverty. Where over 40% of people who can be employed are out of a job. Where our inequalities, Times magazine declared that South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the world. Now, when this is happening around us, how can we sit by and continue to be business as usual and do things as it was done before? When we know people around us who are suffering and we know that there is a solution. We know that there is a solution, yet we do not want to look at the solution. I want to share with you something else which will shock you. And I will give you these stats and figures because it's all in our manifesto that will be launched next week. Do you know that a white person in South Africa, and I'm not racist, but I need us to understand where we are as South Africans. Many of us do not understand this. A white person in South Africa, the average earning of a white person in South Africa, who makes 7% of the population, is 300,000 rands per annum. And a black person, and black as we define it in ADIC, is African, colored, and Indian. South African, colored, Indian, and African. You make up blacks. Our founding document is the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter declares South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Our Constitution declares South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. So where is Indian and colored in that document? Think. We are black. We are black. But the apartheid government mischievously divided us and made us Indians and made us coloreds. They had a specific reason why they did that. That's why today you have a government that perpetuates the apartheid legacy to protect white vested interest. That is what we have today in this country. And that is why when you go into the reality, you find that some political parties are being used to propagate these inequalities of the past. And I want to tell you sadly, the party that gave us liberation in this country forgot about why it was even launched, why it got into politics in the first place. The reality and what was stated in the Freedom Charter is that the people shall share in the wealth of the land. And South Africa, if you didn't know, is one of the 5th wealthiest countries in the world in terms of mineral resources. In our reserves here in South Africa, we have 20.3 trillion rands. And where is all that money sitting? It's sitting in the hands of white companies, white-owned companies, the Ruperts and the Oppenheimers. This cartel of Stellenbosch mafia are controlling the mineral resources in this country. That mineral resources was supposed to be shared among the people of this country. And the reason why we live in a compromised country today is some of our leaders sold us out. Because today, we are not supposed to live in a country where 60% of your petrol prices goes towards taxes and VAT. Do you know that? 60% of your petrol price that you pay when you go to the garage to full petrol, 60% goes towards taxes and fuel levies. Our VAT is 15%. We are unable to afford living in this country. A few of us are overtaxed to pay for people who are not paying taxes. Free education should not be paid through our VAT. Free education, our housing program, ABC Ravi was responsible for housing. And the biggest problem that this country has, and every political party's manifesto, is going to come up with solutions but without money. And without the money, you are unable to solve the problems of our South African people. We in ADEC are saying, go back to the Freedom Charter. Let us take over. I mean, I want to be bold and tell you this today. President Ramaphosa is a billionaire today. How did he become a billionaire? He became a billionaire simply because he was given shares by these big corporate companies. That's how he became a billionaire. Those billions belong to the people. We will impose a 40% super tax, which the ANC had proposed initially, but shelved it. And that 40% super tax is going to fund a better South Africa, where we will not be fighting with one another, where the inequalities that we have at the moment. Let me give you one more piece of information. 63% of all management posts in South Africa are with white people. Do you know that? And yet they are 7%. The poverty rate among whites in this country is 1%. Yet the poverty rate among other race groups is over 40%. So unless we want to be serious and we want to deal with the real issues in this country, we must go to the heart of the problem. And ADEX is saying that that's exactly what we're going to do. We also want to do it in conclusion. We believe in what we call electoral reform. You see, it's not acceptable that a young white girl from the DA who carries parcels, she carries books, carries documents, becomes a member of parliament. Yet someone is hardworking like Councillor Ronnie, Councillor Guinness, they will be councillors until they die in the DA. Do you know that? Because she's a white girl, she's put above them. These are hard-working councillors. Why is that? It's simply because we have a political system where people are accountable only to their political leadership. It's not acceptable, Ronnie and Guinness, that all black leadership, Sagar, is taken out of your party. So what does it tell you? It tells you this party is going back to what it originally intended to be, a party for the white people. They're using you people here just simply to use your votes to promote themselves. I'm sorry to be so blunt about it, but I need to say it. You have the ability in your party as Indians, as Coloreds and Africans, as black people, you've got the ability to take leadership positions, but they don't see you that way. So if we want to tackle issues in this country seriously, and we want to bring real solutions in this country, it's where we need to get activists like Swami Ramanujan Acharya, activists like them, to break away from the system of politics in this country and to start putting the people first. That is what the Freedom Charter said. The time has come in this country where South Africans have had enough. We've had enough of high tariffs. We are paying an arm and a leg for water, electricity, sewage, rates. We can't afford it anymore. And the time has come where we're saying to the government, stop beating the horse that is working. Go to your resources, the mining resources, the resources that's underground, the top 20 companies in your JSC. You know, the CEOs of South African corporate companies earn more than CEOs in other parts of the world. Are you aware of that? Some of our CEOs earn over 100 million rands a year. And foreigners, people from France, people from America, come and take up jobs in this country because of the high salaries that's being paid here. And that money could easily be spent on our people's economy. And that is what we want to create. So I welcome you to join us. I welcome you to become part of our new movement, a movement where we seek real change in this country, and that change is going to start happening from this year. I want to thank you once again. I want to thank you, Guruji, for this opportunity, and may God richly bless all of you. Unfortunately, I need to go back to the Midlands. I need to make sure I'm there before 12, otherwise I will be locked up. And I know some of MEC Ravi's colleagues will be looking forward to that. So I don't want to find foul of that. Thank you very much for having me. I'll definitely come back and we'll spend some time together. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom Reddy. I call upon Vinita Bin.
इंसानियत है सबसे पहला धर्म है इंसान का जिसकी बात ये पन्ना खोलो गीता और कुरान का इंसानियत है सबसे पहला धर्म है इंसान का जिसकी बातें पन्ना खोलो गीता और कुरान का जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने मेरे भारत ने दुनिया को पहले सिखलाई तारों की भाषा भारत ने देता नित शब्दो भारत को यू जान पे गाना मुश्किल था अपना भारत वो भारत ने इसके पीछे संसार चला और आगे बढ़ा यू आगे बढ़ा बढ़ता ही गया भगवान करेंगे और बढ़ता ही रहे और फूले फले बढ़ता ही रहे और फूले फले
Thank you once again. I call upon MEC Ravi Pillai, Executive Member of the African National Congress.
Thank you very much. Namaste, welcome, assalamu alaikum, Sanvanani to those who may be here. Let me recognize the program director, Guruji, for your initiative in pulling this together. The representatives of political parties, representatives of all our religious leaders, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. I think you've set a new tone, a new way for us to be able to engage and share ideas and even compete, as Vishnu just did, but on a platform that says we are one. And that's a very, very important thing, and I want to congratulate you on this initiative. And when I was invited, I tried to read up a little bit of Ramanuji's history, and the fact that 1,000 years later, we are here recognizing his legacy, His Holiness' legacy. I mean, that tells you the power of the message, the power of his legacy over that period of time. I've read that he was described as a philosopher, a religious scholar, and a social transformer. That struck me. What does it mean to be a social transformer? Social means society, transform means to change. And again, it struck me because you can see the color of my hair, and I'll talk a bit about my history and where we are in comparison. Change is the only constant in the world. Change is the only constant in the world. Everything changes. And our task is to ensure that that change is progressive, it's not regressive, it doesn't take us back, it makes society better. And really, Guru, if I look at the world's history, by and large we have become better, except for the materialism part. And that materialism part which has the danger of actually destroying our society, because the planet Earth does not have sufficient to feed our greed. I think Gandhi said, the planet has everything for our needs, but it doesn't have enough for our greed. And that's a fundamental point as to how we approach our work in our political parties, of course, and society, and I think all religions give that particular message. So he was a social reformer. And when he spoke, I understand that he was banished and I'm a bit embarrassed because I'm reading that he was in the south of India, where my ancestors are supposed to come from, and they were Shiva devotees there, and then he was persecuted and then had to move to another area from where he practiced. So again, it's a lesson for us that unfortunately there are bad people in the world. Or even if they are good people inside, sometimes they manifest themselves in bad ways, they get influenced through bad things, and I still believe that every human being, essentially inside, is good. So congratulations on this effort. I was asked to speak on the mission and values of the party that I represent, which is the African National Congress. I can't recall you in university in 1976, but 1976 was my first year in university. I, by the way, am from Port Shepstone, that beautiful place whom you might know, on the south coast. But everybody asks me these days, where do I live? I said, well, my home is in Port Shepstone, but I sleep in Durban, because that's where the work is. But my first year in university was 1976. And my political consciousness started through the Black consciousness movement, not the ANC. The ANC had been banned, it had been suppressed. In fact, I didn't even know about the ANC at that time, because the information, the media had strict regulations. If you mentioned Mandela's name, you would go to jail. You would never see Mandela's name in the newspaper. So we started in Black consciousness through a great leader called Steve Biko. And his mission at that time was to free our minds, because our minds were imprisoned. We were not given full information. We were made to believe certain things. And he said, free your minds first, and that's the first step. to your own liberation. That message still resonates, it's still necessary today. Because we live in a dangerous age of fake news. It's amazing. Last year you had a person called Trump who was the president of the United States. And it's frightening that the extent to which he could use fake news to mobilize his supporters. So free our mind, be critical, interrogate the information that is placed before you. But it didn't take me long, because I wanted to affirm myself. At that time, I mean, like you take a port town on the south coast, and it's the same in Durban and Tonga. Margate was the premier holiday resort. And my holidays, I used to go and work as a waiter in those hotels and the restaurants. And now I look back and I can just see how vicious the racism was, how institutionalized the racism. You just knew your place. This was for the upper class. In that case, at that time it was whites, and then you had Indians and coloreds and Africans at the bottom. And you mustn't forget that as well. It wasn't just a unified racism. There was what is called a hierarchical racism, which is still having repercussions today. When we asked Amith and Maharaj for that matter, why is this so? Because and we mustn't be blind to it, we mustn't be in denial about it, because many of the other parties will go and say, no, today we are under apartheid, we are not white enough, today we are not black enough. That's what they say. Some of them will even go and say, as they said in 1994, the Mandela they're praising today, when Mandela was campaigning to be president, those same people were going to our homes and saying, frightening them to say, your maids are going to buy your houses for 5 rand. That's the kind of racist propaganda they sow, to sow bitterness, to sow fear in our society. Now, when Mandela, let's wait before Mandela came out. So, black consciousness taught me to open my mind. And we soon realized, and we had excellent political educators, who were able to have a vision and say, what is the society you want to build? And then I was taught, you don't have to invent it. In 1955, it was the ANC that brought all the people together in what was called Kliptown in the Congress of the People. That was the African National Congress, the Natal Indian Congress, the Transvaal Indian Congress, the Colored People's Congress, not the Cape Colored Congress, my friend. The Colored People's Congress and the Congress of Democrats, which represented whites. And they produced the Freedom Charter, which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. But we must not be selective about the Freedom Charter. Because the Freedom Charter has many things. The Freedom Charter says it belongs to all of us. It talks about education. It talks about shelter. But then it also talks about the wealth of the country being shared equally. Now, how we can get our country to share the wealth in a more equal way is the challenge before us. Because it's easy to have a populist answer. It's easy to say, no, fine, let's go and take the CEO's salary, cut it in half. So next year the CEO won't be here. You can say, you go to the big companies and say, we'll tax them 40%, but next year that big company won't be here. And you will have what is called a disinvestment. That is why from the very beginning, we said we committed to the Freedom Charter, but we will not be adventurous. We will not be populist. We will not seek easy answers. We will think through things as to the policy that we want to adopt. So therefore, when we say a nationalization is part of our policy, but we won't go blindly and implement nationalization if it's going to have a worse consequence than what the problem you're trying to solve. So we think through things, and we have what is called a policy that says we must neither socialist nor capitalist. We have a mixed economy, and we're trying to bring all our people up with us. There'll be those, you won't give me enough time, Chair, Program Director, but there'll be many more meetings during this campaign where we'll give you statistics that will show how actually we've grown in the democratic era. We've really grown in the democratic era on every statistic you can think of, whether it's education, whether it's the number of people who have access to medical facilities, whether it's simply income levels. I mean, in fact, the Indian community has had the fastest rate of economic growth in the post-democratic era. But I'm not here to just give you a rosy story only, because we have faced challenges. And those challenges include corruption. It includes that we haven't built the capable state. We need to build the ethical state. That means when a civil servant is serving the people, must understand he's a servant of the people. He must not be a person who's oppressing our people. When somebody goes to a rent office or any other government departments, be able to be treated with respect. And we have not achieved that to the extent that we should. But the good news is that the fight against corruption is on in a very, very serious way. And Guru was saying, our president is I think our president is up to the task. I think our president is up to the task and that he understands the problem so well that he's able to devise a plan to get us there. You know, sometimes you're trying to fix something too fast, you'll end up breaking it and end up with a problem bigger than the one you're trying to solve. And that's where we've got to understand the nature of our country, how diverse our country is, what message it takes, what leaders it takes to keep our people together. And without being cheaply party political, it's only the African National Congress that can keep our country together. Ask yourself, which other party would have any possibility of keeping our country together? And the answer is none. And the world over, you see examples of countries that you think were strong and united can unravel very quickly. You can unravel on the basis of race, you can unravel on the basis of tribes, and it requires a very visionary leadership to keep our people together while dealing with our challenges. Of course, we are a democracy. That's why we have all our political parties here. And other political parties are doing their job in holding us to account, in criticizing us. And we must have a thick skin to a certain extent, but then we also have the right of response, the right of reply. And I want to conclude by saying to you, okay, before I conclude, just let me give you one story. It's perfectly in line, Guru, with your work of oneness. Part of our work is to build what is called a social compact. So after we fight as political parties and go to election day, country must still move forward, society must still move forward. How is that going to happen in a practical way? And so we must build a social compact. This social compact is being built, and I happen to be in our province to chair the committee that's leading that process. Government, business, labor, and civil society. And last week we signed a social compact between those four sectors. I represented government. Mr. Nigel Ward, who's the chairperson of the Durban Chamber of Commerce, and he's also the Deputy President of Toyota South Africa, represented business. Mr. Edwin Mkhize, the Provincial Secretary of COSATU, represented Labour, and Mr. Mashdala represented. And we signed this compact towards an economic recovery plan. But what wasn't said here about the effects of COVID is that there have been massive job losses. And our government's response, if I can just take a little time to explain this because it's important, was that we had 4 pillars to our response as government. March last year declared the disaster, passed the regulations on COVID, and we had 4 pillars to the response. The first was the health, naturally the health response. And I was MEC for finance at the time, and I can remember figuratively having to go to every department, open this cupboard and that drawer and see what spare money you had, you're not spending it, or it's not a priority, take it and put it towards the health department. Because we have to create extra facilities, field hospitals, employ thousands of extra nurses and doctors and other support staff, do the public health education, have tracing and contact tracing teams, all of which cost a lot of money. And I think I think our provincial government and national government did a very credible job under the leadership of MEC Similane Zulu in our province, going through the first and second waves. And we hope to be ready, but we want to avoid the third wave, but if it comes, we want to be ready. The second pillar, which comes to the point of this, was looking after the vulnerable. Because when you had that lockdown for 3 months, we understood very clearly. And many of us may not have been affected, including us as public representatives, because we got our salaries. We still got our salaries even though we were in lockdown. And all public servants got their salaries. But many in the private sector had their salaries reduced, or worse, lost their jobs. And then you have the informal sector. Those are casual workers. In our country as a whole, we have 5 million people who work in the informal sector. And when I say informal, these are people who go to work for the day for a piece job, earn the money for the day, and with that money they put food on the table. During the lockdown they couldn't work, they couldn't get money for food on the table. And that's why we had to have the top up on the grants, we had the TERS schemes, the 350, all of which was not enough, but at least it provided some safety net for the poorest of the poor and the vulnerable. The third pillar was what Vishnu was talking about before he left, was compliance. You can't declare a disaster. You make rules but nobody is following it. You've got to enforce it to make it compliance. So the security services, whether it's the police, the army, the metro, all those who are dealing with the regulations had to be brought together and commanded. And I want to remember my good friend MEC Begi Ntuli, who's late, who was leading that campaign every day. And he got infected and he passed away because of the extent of his exposure during that work compliance. But from the very beginning, the fourth pillar was economic recovery. How are we going to get this economy to recover? We call it recovery, reconstruction, and transformation, because we do want to make things more equal. And this social compact that I'd say we signed last week is designed to work together towards getting our economy going again, creating more jobs. It's not a day to tell you about some of the very good stories. Last week I was in Richards Bay opening up 4.5 billion private sector investment from titanium. The CCI, which is the call centers, it's low-level jobs, but 4,500 rand a month for a young person who's not working is a good start. It's a good start, and there's 15,000 jobs there existing already, and we can push it up to 55,000 if we work together over the next 5 years. And that's the work that we are doing. So, colleagues, I want to say that at this point in time, I want to ask you to support our president. Guru, if you say the president is a good man, and the president is in a hard space, but wants to do the right thing, what do you do to someone who wants to do the right thing? You support them. And that's what I will ask you to do. Thank you for listening. May God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, MC Pillay. I call upon Bruce Gates of the Cape Cod Congress.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What an honor and a privilege to be here before you. And Guru, thank you. It's my second time being here, and each time is better than before. All that you do, I'm forever grateful. What they didn't mention, I'm also school governing body chairman of Berkuda Primary, where Guru Stati Angels or more are founded. And the work that he's been doing for them is overwhelming. The work that the team that he works with, his followers have been doing for his kids is overwhelming. Unfortunately, I was unable to bring them here today. But from all of them and myself, teachers, members of our community, Newlands East, we'd like to say thank you to Guru, Navashan, his daughter, all you leaders, thank you. And it's been really interesting and exciting to listen to all our leadership, political leaders, religious leaders, from all different walks. I've learned a lot this evening. I got a lot to take back, and I do appreciate it. I thank you guys for all the work that you do. We do appreciate it. I know we face a lot of challenges, I know there's a lot of positive being mentioned about the ANC, which is true, most of it. And we appreciate what they do. They really are trying. But they need a right team. That's where they lack. You might have a good leadership, but the wrong team, unfortunately, guys, it's not going to work. And I am a member of the Cape Coloured Congress. Many of you will be asking, why the Cape? Cape Coloured Congress was founded not even 2 years ago. It's a very new party, but they've accomplished a lot and have grown. This group of coloured people founded in the Cape felt they were the only ones that were in the struggle. They felt that they were the only ones that didn't have supper at night, were homeless, lacked medical care, and the list goes on. But after doing my research into it, I found, hey, I can relate to these guys. They know the struggle we're going through. Every time I look around my community, I see the same thing they're crying about. And I'm faced with it daily. I have to live through it. And I said, no, man, let me look into it. They were actually called the Gatpol Cape Townians. That's where they started. When the movement started, that's what they were. They were Gatpol. They were upset with the way they were being treated. They were upset about their living conditions. And that is something we can all relate to, guys. And yes, the name will change in the days to come, months to come, years to come. It will change. This party is here to represent all. It's here to represent those that are struggling, those that are sidelined, those that are marginalized. It's there for all. Let's put the name aside and let's start working together. We are a party that wants to work with the DA, we want to work with the ANC, we want to work with all political parties, all religions. We don't have a problem. That's the way forward, and that's the only way we're going to succeed, guys. There's no other way. Unless we do that, and the sooner we do it, the better it will be for all of us. We need to do it for our kids. It's their future that's hanging in the balance, yeah? And it's them that we need to work for. It's them that we need to fight for. And Guru is a perfect example of what he's doing for our kids. You and your leadership and your followers, Guru, are doing an overwhelming job, Guru. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate the food that you put on our tables. We appreciate the words of wisdom, knowledge, encouragement. We need that. We need to be there for each other. We need to love each other. And yes, coloured, you know, with us, we got family of all races. As I stand before you here, I'm related to the Butsalezis. I'm related to the Ogles. I'm a Gator. I'm related to the Johans. I have got family across all cultures. I am Indian, coloured, white, African. That's how we are. And guys, many of them will also ask me, why Cape Coloured Congress? Why Cape? That's racist. Coloured, that's racist. No. Guys, it's not about racism. It's about the challenges that we face. It's time we put all that behind us, and it's time that we work together. It's time that we share love. You know, love, if a man's words could be weighed, that's what we don't see today. And that word love is a powerful word. We need to start sharing more of it. We need to start being there for one another, show that love. Like, you know, in the Bible, there's a story of a good Samaritan. This guy was injured, left on the side of the road, he'd been robbed, they bashed him up. And people walked past him, and many ignored him like he wasn't there until this good Samaritan came across. And back then, good Samaritans actually weren't good people. They were considered to be bad people. They didn't really care much. They were a Jewish person would rather walk around their city and walk through it. That's how much they avoided him. They wouldn't even go into their homes. No, not Samaritans. But this guy stopped and he helped, and he took this person off the streets, injured, helped care for him, took him to a hotel, left him, paid for him while he was there, and asked the caregiver to look after him. And when on my return, if I am short, if I not left with enough money, I will pay it. Now this was a man, at that time, people thought he was bad, evil, he's a Samaritan. But no, he did a lot of good. He cared. He cared. He didn't have much. They also went through their stuff, but they cared. We need to start being there for each other. You see somebody that's injured or somebody that needs help, go that extra mile. Be there for your neighbor. I remember growing up, my parents, we had unity amongst ourselves in our community. Neighbors knew each other, we were there for each other. Any help you needed, you could go and ask. We didn't have these high fences and high walls, not knowing who your neighbor is. We were there for each other. We didn't look at race, we didn't look at color. We didn't care about all that. What we did care about is being there for each other. And that's what this moment and what I see today is, going forward, guys, we need more of this. I'm hoping that we have more events like this, yeah, where we can come together, share our views, and also be there to support each other, love each other. Let's stop the hatred, let's stop the anger. That's not going to solve anything. It's been around for 2,000, 3,000 years and nothing fruitful has come out of it. Violence, there is no solution. let's be there for each other. Let's love each other, guys. That's all I can say. And I want to thank you all, Guru, once again. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Guru Skater. I call upon Councillor Varna from the Minority Front.
Thank you, Program Director. Respected Guruji, Honorable MEC Ravi Pillai in absentia, members of the various political parties, and colleagues from the eThekwini municipality, members from the various faiths, dear devotees, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Sanbonani, and a very good evening to everyone. Firstly, I want to thank the Narayan Dham, Sri Narayan Dham, Guruji, for the invitation to celebrate with you the month of Ramanujans, the inauguration of the ashram and the Goshala, and together with the birthday of Swami Sudarshan. The mission of the ashram clearly states it brings about cultural and religious diversity under one roof. And this, Guruji, is definitely come through today, as we can visibly see. And I must thank you, Guruji, for creating this platform. It is quite unusual because, as the other colleagues have mentioned, we don't normally talk politics at a religious occasion, especially on this momentous occasion. However, once again, I must thank you for that opportunity. I currently serve as a member of the National Executive Committee for the Minority Front. I also serve as the as the National Treasurer and the eThekwini Municipality Councillor for the Minority Front. The Minority Front was formed some time back, 28 years ago, by the late Mr. Amith Rajbansi, and is currently under the leadership of the Honorable Mrs. Shyam Rajbansi. Mrs. Rajbansi is currently a member of the KZN provincial government, which she serves with Honorable MEC Mr. Ravi Pillai. The MF, when it was formed some time back, it was more focused on a socio level, and it served as a voice of the minority, marginalized communities. And I must say, and I reiterate, especially for Indian communities at the time. Although the party has extended its arms towards the other communities, today the Indian community is still faced with many challenges, and we need a party that will be focused on the issues that are being faced by the Indian people today. The Indian people cannot be treated as second-class citizens, and they cannot be diluted into bigger parties where issues are not being addressed. Many issues day to day are brought to our offices, and I'm sure you're all well and aware of it and faced on a daily basis. One of them, we can just pick a few: affirmative action, where jobs are retarded and there's a quota system. So many people of Indian descent are being marginalized at the job place. Secondly, at the universities, many of you have students that have finished grade 12, you'll find that you experience a limited number of seats that are available for Indian students at any of the universities throughout the country. The concern is that if your child wants to study medicine, he will probably have to leave this country. If he gets a spot in the Western Cape, he'll be lucky, he or she. In terms of studying, why should we not be allowed to study in our own province, stay near our homes and not incur any additional cost? But apart from that, the high unemployment levels, the high crime rate, and further down at local level, you'll find your street lights not working continuously, your verge is not cut, bringing about high crime levels, that's creating more stress for people. One of the biggest items that our people are being faced with currently is the high utility bills. 159,000, 128,000, 106,000, 38,000, just to name a few numbers. That is what a 75-year-old pensioner in Chatsworth is being billed. My colleagues here also face the same problem. We're inundated by this. We try, our offices are set up in Chatsworth to address these issues. And I must say our strike rate is about 81% once we deal with the relevant officials at the department at the municipal department. In our constitution, when democracy was brought about, there's a huge number of bills, Bill of Rights, and that's what we're glad to sign up for. But there's one, I'm sorry, if you have an issue that you need to deal with, you've got to engage an attorney, it'll cost you money. But there is one right that is free. Does anyone know what right that is? It's the right to vote. It's a free right. No one can restrict you. All you got to do is to go and register and make your mark on the 27th of October. That is the date that local government election has been proclaimed by the President. And with all protocols in terms of the COVID being observed, it should go ahead at that time. There'll be time for you to make your mark, to choose who your future leaders will be. The Minority Front urges all citizens to go out, register, make your mark. It's your choice and your voice. I want to wish Guruji and the Sri Narayan Dham all the best for the rest of the celebrations, and I thank you for today, the opportunity to be part of this platform. I want to wish all mothers a happy Mother's Day and all Muslims a happy Eid al-Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bana. Can we have a few words from Dev Rishi Das from the Gaudiya Mount?
Hare Krishna everybody, Jai Shri Narayan. So many of y'all don't know, but I wasn't supposed to say anything today, and I just stepped in under the marquee and the Mataji asked me if I could say a few words. So I haven't really planned anything as such, but I'd like to congratulate Guruji and the entire team of the Sri Narayan Dham for all that they do, all the seva, social work, and all the donations of blankets, food, and the food drives. That really helps the community. It gives the community hope. It gives our people hope that someone cares, that somewhere there's someone who stands for them. And keeping in line with the teachings of Srila Ramanujan, the famous verse, equality for all, where we go beyond caste and beyond creed, and remember that one of the most important teachings from the Gita, which is we are not this body, we are the soul, and that takes us beyond caste, beyond creed, beyond religion, and serve humanity. So I just want to say congratulations on all the good work, and may Mother Lakshmi continue to bless the Dham, and may your progress grow steadily. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank the following people for responding to our invite. Ramesh Harishran, Senior Member of the African National Congress, Ganesh Governor, Durban South Chairperson of the Democratic Alliance, the Arena Park, Shriman Narayana Bhajan Group, Kishore from the Blue Dot, Cliffy Naidu, Amith from Nagara Touch, Councillor Ronnie Kolei, and to anyone else that I've forgotten, Thank you very much for responding. Supper will be served in the ashram for the dignitaries and for the councillors. Devotees will have supper here in the marquee. Thank you to all for responding. Have a safe journey home. Hope to see most of you at Satsang tomorrow. Satsang tomorrow is at 2 p.m. Jai Shri Narayan.
Thank you. Khatija, also I would like you to go and be part of the cake cutting. There are two pastors and all of you that remained back from the various political parties. Please, everyone hold a knife in cutting this cake. Whilst we're doing this, I just want to share with you what I learned from the various races. I learned to be respectful from the whites. I learned loyalty from the blacks. I learned how to make a plan from the Indians. And I learned how to party from the coloreds. Thank you.
Cut the cake properly, love.
You sing the birthday song. Give a party now.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Hooray! Hooray!
Good day, your jolly good fellows.
And so say all of us. And so say all of us. And so say all of us. Yeah.
No, hip hip. Hip hip.
Hooray!
Jai Shriman Narayana. Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, Vanakkam, and a very good afternoon, friends. My name is Vigani and I'm with the Parents Association of KZN and also at Radio Hinwani. It gives me immense pleasure to say a few congratulatory words on the celebrations of the Sri Narayan Dham, a foundation whose principles are hinged on equality, unity, and mutual respect for cultures and communities. For decades in South Africa, people of different cultures coexisted peacefully, side by side, caring and sharing in cultural values. From the first fight for equality and democracy to the birth of the Rainbow Nation, brothers and sisters along the way have sacrificed their liberties and even lost their lives in the pursuit for our freedom. But are we really free? If we find ourselves shackled by ego and pride and the need to be right all the time, especially at the expense of others, then are we truly free? The battle for democracy has been hard fought and won, but now we have new battles at hand, that of poverty, health services, housing and infrastructure, an unequal education system, and most recently, the devastating COVID-19. This has never been easy and is never easy to accept or comprehend. There is no quick fix solution here. People are fighting battles we know nothing of, and some are even dying. Nothing is eternal or infinite. Nothing is guaranteed. Now, instead of lifting, we are drifting. Further apart from each other, our people are becoming intolerant of one another's cultures, religions, and beliefs. Respect is a rare commodity nowadays. All one has to do is survey social media platforms to see this facade, aggressive behavior, attacks, and fictional lives displayed. I say this constantly. If your religion teaches you to hate another, then you need a new religion. People say you take nothing when you depart from this earthly world. I disagree. You take just two things, your good deeds and your bad deeds. And if you're smart, you leave behind a legacy, one that is admired, steeped in community values and standards. It is in this true spirit of altruism that we need to rid ourselves of this notion of being better than anyone else and start by being kinder to each other. We should start there. There is already so much of hate in this world, perpetuated by people and countries with agendas hell-bent to destroy. But they can't destroy your soul, your being, your energy, not unless you give them that power. But you're stronger than that. You're in control. Never forget that. So these initiatives undertaken by the esteemed Sri Narayan Dham is a legacy, all-encompassing, bringing people together from all walks of life and trying to create an environment that cares for all its people, irrespective of race, culture, and belief. I applaud these members and their Gurujis in taking those steps in fostering good relations with members of other communities. This is highly commendable. There are two types of people, the givers and the takers. And whilst the takers eat better, the givers sleep better. You can make a difference, we all can. This is just one aspect of what we can do to enrich other people's lives. And when we enrich somebody else, we somehow enrich our own. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all. Take care and have a beautiful day ahead.
And we pray, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, come and show the way. Your children's here to pray. Please come and show the way. There are many races in this land, in different halls we pray. We call him by different names, the one who shows the way. But the one who shows the way, my Lord,
Dharma ki Jai. Asatoma